Welcome to Brotherhood First, the podcast. I am your host, Franklin Stacy Jr. Joining me today are brothers Gary Moore and Lamar Anderson, along with my producer. You might know him as the other brother, Brother Alex Wood. Today we're talking about how the greatest fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, enriched our lives. Brothers, not only has Alpha Phi Alpha enriched my life, Alpha Phi Alpha saved my life. I am only sitting here because of Alpha Phi Alpha. I'm just going to keep it 100. I am not perfect. And I am a product of my environment. And like I said before, I came very close to not even being a college student and even being introduced to Alpha Phi Alpha. And so, being a product of my environment, you do what everybody else is doing. And so it was a blessing to be able to leave the South End of Peoria and experience Alpha Phi Alpha. But unfortunately, I did not follow the path that most college brothers that, go and do what they're supposed to do and finish school. I didn't follow that path the way I was supposed to. And when we talk about our aims, manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind, the scholarship part I really did not take seriously. And I paid a price for that. And it brought me back to the environment that I was working to get out of. And I did some pretty bad things. I put forth a lot of effort to try to stay away from some things, but unfortunately, I ended up putting myself in a position where I almost lost my life. And I currently have, bullet fragments in my back that damaged the T4 section of my spine, and it paralyzed me. And, even getting out of the hospital, I, came back to that same environment. And so people always say, man, didn't you learn your lesson? Yeah, I learned my lesson. My lesson is to now make sure that no one else ever shoots me again. Mm. So, because I'm back in that same environment. You don't leave the hospital and then go and get moved to the suburbs. And that's why it's so important to me, to be a board member of the Peoria Citizens Against Violence, because, what they do and what we do there is we assist those that are victims of gunshot victims and their families. And I didn't have that at the time. I just had to go back to my environment. And then the day that Christopher Johnson, a Zeta Nu initiate, came to me and said, Brother Stacy, there's a chapter called Kappa Pi Lambda that we need to start. And I need your help. That took my attention back from my environment to Alpha Phi Alpha. And since then, it's been nothing but Alpha Phi Alpha for me. And brothers like Chad Simmons, who said, you know what, you're doing some great things at the college level. It's time for you to elevate. It's time for you to elevate to the district level. And then, when LG Sims, Senator LG Sims, became regional vice president. Right. Brother, it's time for you to elevate and do something at the regional level. It was brothers like that kept me busy. They kept my mind occupied.
They kept you elevated.
Kept me elevated, and made me realize that you are a part of a brotherhood that is a social service organization, and you need to start serving. It's time for you to start serving those people that are underprivileged, those people that were struggling the same way you were struggling, and utilize Alpha Phi Alpha. And so my life is owed. Enrich my life? My life is owed to Alpha Phi Alpha.
I like the word you use, elevate, because as most of us first generation college attendee coming from the south side of Chicago, poverty, and my brothers who didn't go to college drove me down to Bradley and basically put the fear of God in me. You are going to be successful. You need to do what you need to do. So these are brothers who, were living in the area of the Blackstone Rangers and the disciples who decided to turn to the Black Panthers. And my brother Billy, God rest his soul, who was a union rep and worked for a corn products corporation. And so he was the one with the car. And he drove me down. We went to Avani's. We visited Peoria. And it was basically a challenge that you're going to have to finish college. You're going to have to be the one to go through.
You were the chosen one.
Basically, and put that pressure on me, that creative pressure to succeed. Okay, so that's the challenge. So when I come to Bradley, I'm looking for support, and to see brothers who are, I like that word elevation, who are at this high level of, first of all, academics, character, like I said, the Egyptology, just the African American history component to that was appealing. It's like, okay, these are brothers who I want to be connected with, because these are the ones who are going to take me to that next level. These are the ones that are going to help me succeed in college, sustain those principles and tenets that my brothers had. It was almost like my brothers passing the baton to the brothers of A5. It's like the fraternity saying, okay, we got him. And so we're gonna take him over the finish line.
Yeah. And you mentioned character, character. And when we talk about our aims, we always recite manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind. How many brothers really know what manly deeds is? That's the character part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the character part.
Yes.
Yeah. And one thing I thought about when I'm hearing that is that one thing I live by. You brothers may have seen that picture of the brother who's reaching over the wall to pull the other brother up. I didn't realize how much that type of thing impacted me in regards to who I am and helped shape who I wanted to be until I became a part of this great organization, because that's how I live my life. I was always that person who was, when I got an opportunity, look back to try to figure out how to help somebody else. Not get that amnesia. I call it ethnic amnesia. I didn't get that ethnic amnesia that I've gotten to a certain point in my life where I'm just like, okay, I'm good. I'm not worried about who else is not good. And one of the major reasons I believe that is because when I made the decision to go to college, I was in the same situation Brother Stacy was in. I had a group of people in my local community who were just like, saw something else in me, who was like, we on some other stuff. Like, I know you think you can come down here and hang out, but you can't hang out with us no more. Like, and at first, I felt insulted. I'm looking like, y'all my boys. Like, why can't I hang out with y'all? But they saw something else in me that was like, the environment and the stuff that we are currently doing, you got some other stuff that you need to be doing. And this, you can't be around this. So that's definitely one of the major reasons I can see how it enriched me.
Man, I had a very similar experience coming out of high school with a buddy of mine that was doing some things that were not quite in the legal realm. I'll put it like that, right? And we're going. I'm with him one day, and we're going somewhere, and he's like, "Here, drop me off." And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm just gonna roll with." He's like, "No, dude, you have an opportunity to go and get an education, do your thing. You can't go with me." And interestingly enough, later on, as I look at, we were talking earlier about the vision of the jewels and how that has rolled out and impacted and I would say blessed so many lives, hundreds of thousands of lives. I make one point for me personally, one experience. So again, that similar thing of being the first in your family to go to college, and there's so much riding on you and so much expectation. And I go and I do that, and I graduated, and that's wonderful. But there was a brother, Dr. Charlie Walker, who had me over to dinner at his house, and he said, "So, Brother Wood, when you started grad school?" I said, "Excuse me, I didn't know what grad school was. Okay, a master's degree is not even in the realm of possibility or thought. But he said, no, he kind of explained to me the importance and all this. And what actually ended up happening was, through the fraternity, a brother I met at a convention in 1994 in Chicago was in Atlanta. We became friends, and there was a program at Georgia State University. Okay, it was a master's in communication, film, and video, and through him, I ended up going from Seattle, Washington, to Atlanta, Georgia. I'd never been to Atlanta, Georgia. Never thought about going there. Wow. And I end up and I go and get my master's at Georgia State. Wow. Because of that connection. So that's just one example of many.
Yeah. And when you're talking about enriching your life, it's just the experiences that you have. I talk to people all the time that they travel, and all of my travel, or I would have to say 90% of my travel has been me traveling city to city, going to conferences, conventions, going from state to state, conferences, conventions, visiting chapters, visiting brothers. Everything just completely ties to Alpha Phi Alpha. And Brother Wood, I remember when we had a conversation here recently, and I shared with you, I hear people talk about all the time, I've been out of the country here, and I've been out of the country there, I've been out of the country here. The very first time I've ever been out of the country was when we had our regional convention in Canada. Alpha Phi Alpha finally took me out of the country. I never had a desire to just go and visit Paris to see the Eiffel Tower. Right. I never had a desire to just go to London and see what Big Ben or whatever is over there. But when our now General President, Dr. Willis L. Lonser, told us, hey, get your passport, get ready. Don't get one of them little cards. Get a real passport. Never filled out a passport application in my life, and was able to get a passport and leave the country. Toronto, Canada was so beautiful to me. It was the experience just to be out of the United States. It's so funny that I didn't even have the right cell phone package. So I wasn't even getting phone calls. Okay, when I went to contact my cell phone company, I was like, hey, I'm leaving the country. I need to get some international, and they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll take care of you. And then next thing you know, I found out that they directed me to Mexico or something like that. So I had coverage in Mexico, but I ain't have coverage anywhere else. And when I got home, when I landed back into Midway in Chicago, my phone just blew up. My phone just blew up, and bam, text messages, bam, bam, bam. Man, are you okay? Are you okay? You're not responding. Hey, somebody's been trying to get in touch with you. Where you at? But I was in Canada because of Alpha Phi Alpha.
And what's so deep about that is, again, back to the Jules vision. It was Jewel Tandy and Jewel Jones in 1908 that went to Toronto and set up the original Delta chapter. Yeah. And if you think about that, like what was going on in their mind, and what were the connections that they had that induced them to go and do that?
Genius.
And make us international.
Visionaries.
Yes.
Visionary.
In 1908.
Yes. Yeah, visionary.
Audacity of thought to just say, like, this has to be bigger than just what we've just done, in Ithaca, New York. Like, to just have that audacity to say, this is going to grow beyond, our chapter.
When we talk about enriching our lives, we can't forget about, family, our livelihoods, and how, we take everything that we learn and everything that Alpha Phi Alpha teaches us. Alpha Phi Alpha, and I don't like using the word blueprint when I talk about Alpha Phi Alpha because of the color blue.
Because it's a black and
gold
print.
So let's just say the gold. Let's just say the black and gold print. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Right. Alpha Phi Alpha has a black and gold print. And if you follow it, you'll be fine.
You're golden.
You'll be fine. So when you follow that black and gold, that black and gold print, then it begins to benefit your family. The respect of womanhood. I met my wife 33 years ago. That is the only woman that I have children by. And everybody knows that I'm a stubborn guy at times. And so it's like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to get married. I don't know if I'm going to get married. I don't know if I'm going to get married. But, yeah, you're going to get married. Alpha Phi Alpha says, yeah, you're going to get married. Because if you really respect this woman, and you really want to raise these children, and I'm talking about raise these children in the house, not on the weekends picking them up. You're gonna do what it takes, and you're gonna show your 2 young daughters and your son. You're gonna show your 2 young daughters what a man should be like, and how, and be an example by showing them how to treat their mother, and then let your son see you treat his mother with respect, and so that he can grow up. When I tell you, my son is a way better man than I am. Oh my God, he is a way better man than I am. Now, I have to challenge him when it comes to being a father. I think I got him there. I can't be in second all the time. But just my job. My job, and what I do for not necessarily what I do for these young people, but what they do for me. It's what they do for me. They keep me alive. They keep me, they keep me going. They keep me on my toes. And working at an alternative school, Greeley Alternative School, and working under the leadership of Principal Brandon Caffey. And people used to be like, man, you must got it good. No, I ain't got it good. You want to know why? Because I got to make Brandon Caffey look good.
Yes. Right.
I got to be at work. I got to be the first one at work, because he's an alpha man. And I want to make sure that as an alpha man, I make that alpha man look good. Right. I'm the last one to leave. I don't make up excuses. It's about, it's about supporting.
It's about excellence.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I think for a lot of brothers, the poems, the pledge tenets, you think about the tests of a man, you think about if, you think about Invictus, you think about those words. There's no way when you go through the course of your day, if you're going through something challenging in your family, at your job, whatever, that you don't invoke those concepts. How many times have you said, I have not winced nor cried aloud? If all men count with you, but none too much. Or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. All those things come back to you in an enriching way. I think for a lot of brothers, those are Psalms and Proverbs, and you live by those things. And that's the way Alpha enriches you from a philosophical, conceptual standpoint. I remember going to the Million Man March, and it's a sea of black men out there. I mean, just a sea of brothers. So, and my blood brother was there. I never saw him there, right? But we knew that each other was there somewhere in the crowd.
And you knew the Alphas was there too, because there was a sign.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm on the platform of NBC doing live reports, feeding them back. And as soon as I step off the platform, I see Brother Michael Thompson, from T. UK. And it's like, and that connection, that Alpha connection, this was the one person I saw, besides the group I went with, who I knew in those million men, I saw an alpha man. And that was solid.
And think of how many alpha men were there that we didn't know were alpha men.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, that's, man, y'all blow my mind. If you think about it, like, I love, like, a voteless people as a hopeless people. Because I'm a deputy registrar. So, like, I clearly remember I had never thought about voting and how important voting is, within the community that I lived in, because, I never really knew any elected officials who kind of looked like me.
Yeah.
So when I realized how important, our voices are on that ballot, it was just one of the main. I love that this is one of the things that we lead the charge on, and we really push really hard for people to understand that they actually have a voice, and how they can exercise that voice is by being registered to vote. We were talking about national elections, but a lot of people don't realize that local elections are more important sometimes than national elections. So
yeah,
yes.
yeah, and when you're talking about voting, I mean, I think you got to practice.
Yep.
You have to practice. It's like when before you get ready for that big game,
Yep.
you have to practice. And so I don't care if you're voting to determine whether you like Coke or Pepsi. Vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's your practice.
Yep.
So that every time you're given the opportunity to make a choice, every time you get an opportunity to make a choice, answer that question. That's you practicing. That's you practicing so that you can get to, okay, these are the things that locally I need to deal with.
Yep.
So you can get to, okay, statewide.
Yep.
Okay, so you can get to, nationally.
Yep.
I mean, that's
But
just
Brother
so
Stacy, the other thing too, though, is that in voting, you then, if you're true to the process, you become more educated about the issues that are affecting your community.
Yep.
If I decide, okay, I'm going to vote, I got these two candidates, then I got to figure out which one is speaking to the issues that I care about.
Yep.
So now you're becoming an informed citizen, right?
And we're talking about enriching our lives. Your life will not be enriched if there's a candidate who does not see the same things that you see.
Yep. And the great part about the voting process is that if those candidates that you voted in don't do what you want them to do, you got an opportunity to vote them out.
Oh man, oh man.
And I think what this somewhat speaks to as well within the Alpha experience is a lot of times we think of our lives being enriched by what we've received, but there's a lot of enrichment through what we give.
Yeah, yeah,
The things that we do when we do a Project Alpha,
yeah.
when we do a Brother's Keeper, when we do a voter registration drive, and we get people actively engaged, like you're saying, that fills you up.
Yeah.
And I know for me, there's again, we talk about these experiences, these unique things that we've done because of the fraternity, but then that in turn makes our communities better.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
We're wearing shirts that says brotherhood, the feeling of kinship. And feeling. I mean, what in biology, you talk about endorphins, I mean, these hormones that make you feel good, the chills that go up your spine, right? And it's like, that's the feeling you get. That's part of the enrichment.
Oh my God. I mean, words cannot even express how great I feel whenever I'm doing something for somebody else. Whenever, whenever I know that, and I did it with no ulterior motives. No ulterior motives. I mean, I don't need nothing in return. I tell people, people are always saying, well, I owe you. You don't owe me anything. You don't owe me anything.
You know why that is for you? Because you embrace the servants of all.
Yeah. So that we can transcend all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
have to embrace.
You're edified. It's edifying to do good works for someone. There's a button I saw somewhere, and I was showing it to my students. It says something like, "Do good when no one is watching."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because then it just comes natural.
It's genuine.
Yeah, and it's just genuine. And so I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you, brothers, and I appreciate this dialogue. And once again, thank you to my guests, Brother Gary Moore, Brother Lamar Anderson, and the brother we all know as the other brother, Brother Alex Wood. Thank you. God bless. I love you all.